So alright guys, in today's video I wanted to talk about a project I've been working on where I make a miniature marble run and I'm having it currently powered by low temperature phase changes. If you're wondering why I decided to make a low temperature phase, marble run, I've never seen anybody do this. I've only ever seen low temperature phase change devices, be used in clocks. Some really famous examples are Beverly clocks and Atmos clocks. Now the original goal wasn't to make a marble run, but to understand the physics behind this so I can make a probable world's first low temperature phase change mechanical calculator, a very basic one. If not that, I wanted to make a pretty basic analog flip-flap display where I can just put some pins in to lock the display in place on certain days. Well anyway, as you guys can see, it's pretty basic right now. There's just a driving mechanism, it's pressed against the can, and in a Beverly clock or an Atmos clock they'd use a chain that is spring loaded. This is so you can get a return stroke. This, however, does not have a return stroke. It only turns on the expansion of the can, not the reset. Also, you may be wondering why I'm using a soda can. Well, they're real easy to set up for this project, and for a prototype, that's kind of a good thing. Next, it's kind of a memory metal, meaning I'm more or less relying on the memory of the can snapping into its original shape than the actual, pressure change happening in the can to drive this. So instead of a nice smooth pulling motion or expanding motion like a Beverly clock or an Atmos clock has, this thing will violently snap. So if you ever wanted a good prank to mess with somebody, setting one of these cans up, placing them around a haunted place, and then waiting for the temperature to change over time, it's actually pretty funny. Well anyway, before I talk about how I set these cans up and made them, how about we take a look at the driving mechanism? Version 2. I actually have a better version 3 planned, but for the time being, version 2 here, I'm actually experimenting with a bearing that I put in, although version 1, the one you saw earlier, doesn't have a single bearing. Believe it or not, it works pretty good just as is. And in, version 2 here, obviously I don't have a bearing. It's more of a makeshift bearing using the 6mm diameter airsoft pellets, but overall seems to work pretty good. Now as you can see, there's no return stroke and there's no springs in here. Believe it or not, if I wanted this to work better at all kinds of different angles, I'd use a spring. But why use a spring that wears out when I could just take advantage of nature's spring, which is, gravity? So I took some inspiration from the hidden blade design. I don't actually know what this mechanical part would be called, but it works pretty good nonetheless. So if you happen to know the name of it, let me know down below in the comments. But just a quick overview of how it works. There's a lever. This lever presses up against a compressed can. As the can expands, it pushes forward on this ratcheted gear, which you don't really even need the ratcheting part. I put that there just for this thing. However, if you're using other gearing and everything else, you may not even need it. Or if you just want to spin a piece of paper or spool up a string, it's not actually needed at all. Well anyway, the lever pushes forward, the pivot rests right on the gear, it spins the gear, and when the can resets, since the gear is angled with the teeth, the pivot will just slide over it without disrupting its place. Now within the current setup of this driving mechanism, it only gives 4mm of rotation every day. Well, I should say every time it expands. Which admittedly is not a lot, because if you do some basic math and you use something like a 12-inch string and you want to wind that up every day, and let's say it goes off every single day perfectly, it would take about 150 to 200 days to wind that whole string up just using nothing more than low temperature phase change. Which nonetheless is still pretty cool, and I could see why they used a mechanism like this inside of, self-winding clocks. Well anyway, speaking of the rest of the mechanisms in this, how did I make that soda can? Well, first of all, you need to empty a soda can out, and to do that, you need to punch a hole in the top. You can use a finishing nail or a metal poke. I happen to have a metal poke. You just put it on top, punch a hole through the lid, or the bottom of the can. It doesn't really matter where you do it. After you do that, you plug the hole, shake the can up, and dump the soda out into a cup. After that, stick some paper towels in the end and wait for it to be fully dry. You want this to be fully dry or it might throw off some of the pressure changes that you need inside the can for this to work. Once you have the can thoroughly dried, there's some bit of a warning here that's needed. Just about every liquid that we're going to be putting in this can is a solvent of some type. So after we hot glue and seal this can, you'll need to use a stronger epoxy that's resistant to it. We're just going to be using hot glue because we need to form a temporary plug as we purge this. And by the way, purging means heating the can up. So if you don't feel safe heating up a really flammable liquid, do not do this. I'm not talking we need to do it over an open flame. We just need to put the soda can in some warm water. But with that said, what liquids are there to use in this type of project? Well, there are some lab grade liquids like pentane you can get. That's probably the best. I don't have that, however. I decided to use acetone in as high of a percentage as I possibly could. And if you want even higher temperatures, not like an indoor build, you can use IPA. If you want something that will work kind of indoors, stick with acetone, or if you can get it, a starting fluid with ether. The Atmos clock uses an ether. Now starting fluid's not clearly the same, there's other additives and stuff in it, so you'll want to let that sit a bit before adding it to your can. But like I said, use the safer one right now, which is the one I used, and it seems to work alright as long as you balance it just right, which is acetone. So once you added your liquid in, just a little bit, you don't need too much. You then want to heat your can up. I just put the soda can in some warm water on the stove, making sure the stove is off after I put the can in. You don't want this near any open flames, and you want to be in a well-ventilated area. Once you have the can in, it doesn't need to be in too long. You can then take it out, put some hot glue over the hole, and the can should, well, seal itself shut and, well, compress inward. If it compresses too much, I recommend doing it again. You don't want a full vacuum in there, just a partial vacuum. If it's too much, then you'll have 14 pounds per square inch of atmospheric pressure pushing in on the can from the outside, and this thing will never expand violently like you want. Also, it might help to pre-dent the side that you want to expand, so maybe dent the can before you seal it would help pretty good too. But after you have it sealed with the hot glue, you can test it a bit first, and once you verified it works fine and you got the right balance of everything, you can then epoxy the rest of the opening, or the hot glue in the opening, I should say. But yeah, with that said, that's how the soda can's made, that's how the driving mechanism works as of right now. I am working on a better version where it all goes on a single kind of board, and this version should be able to be made out of more higher quality materials and probably withstand some outdoor elements. As you can see here, this 3D printed one would not work good outdoors probably. Other than that, for those that are interested in the marble run, it's a print in place marble run. It's my own design, but I got inspiration from a few YouTube channels I watched, and one of them's a Japanese content creator. I'm not going to butcher the name, but I'll link it down below in the description. And he made a few print in place miniature marble runs, and this is kind of inspired by that. Although I did my marble wheel, or the Ferris wheel type thing, a bit differently. It's more like a tire rim that fills in, and it's, you know, it just carries a few pellets all at once to compensate for the mathematical error that I encountered, but yeah, all of it was pretty much print in place, just with one or two supports, and the wheel pin was printed separately, and I'm linking these two mechanisms just by a simple little metal linkage between them. I mean, if it works for water wheels, it works for this, you know? Although in the next build, I'll try to actually use proper gearing and get this even more efficient with some, like, proper bearings and all kinds of other stuff. I'm also experimenting with using jars, because jars are meant to be pressurized, and their lids are meant to snap, much like a Snapple lid. Now, whether or not I can get the amount of deflection I need out of a jar lid, I don't know, that's why I'm still experimenting with it, but I still think it's pretty cool nonetheless, and I'm going to keep trying this stuff. But yeah, for the time being, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun working on this, and I'm going to continue to work on this and learn more, because I'm not that good when it comes to mechanical engineering like this, which is why I wanted to dive into a project like this to, well, get better at it. But with that said, I'm going to leave today's video off here now. DTPK signing off. Peace. First thing that you want enabled, that you need to have enabled, is turn on, and you also need the power jump.